Hearthstone has 10 classes, and all the classes are good in their own right, but there is one class that stands above the rest of the best class in the history of Hearthstone. Now, I bet you're wondering, how do you define what the best class is? The way that I'm going to define it is the class that got the most nerf cards and has been the most consistent in a bunch of different expansions and metagames that always usually had a really good deck in the format. I also want to put a little bit of an asterisk for Demon Hunter because obviously Demon Hunter hasn't been out for as long as the other classes. It's been only around 2 years, but I think Demon Hunter still makes it in the conversation because it's made quite a big of an impact. Did you know that you can comment down below what you think the best class is? You probably should. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe. I also want to mention that these rankings are for standard only. This has no consideration for arena, wild, because those comments seem to be brought up quite a bit. Let's talk about Demon Hunter first. Now, Demon Hunter is in a weird spot on this list because it's been out for the shortest amount of time, but in that short amount of time, Demon Hunter has made quite the impact because at the moment, Demon Hunter has the second most nerfs of all time and has also had the best deck in Hearthstone history, which was aggro Demon Hunter. Quite obviously, Demon Hunter has been super strong, but it's too early to tell. In the second year that Demon Hunter was out, it was not nearly as impactful as the first year. Not to say it was bad, but definitely from Forged in the Barrens to Fracture and Alterac Valley, Demon Hunter kind of took a backseat compared to what it was in the year of Ashes of Outlands. And it's also important to note that it was nerfed a lot because of the state it was released in. When it was first released, the class was just at an absurd power level compared to the rest, so it definitely needed to be toned down just to match the average power level of the rest of the classes. I also want to mention Warlock because as great as Warlock has been over the years, there has been a lot of times where Warlock has just been not existent in the metagame, which means that it's not nearly as consistent as the top 3 classes, even though some of their decks were really good. Also, Warlock does have the most nerfs out of any other class, so that was definitely a consideration when making this list. And even though I consider myself a Warlock main and it pains me to not put it on this list, I just don't think it's been consistent enough to be considered in the top 3, even though it is very close. At number 3, I'm gonna put Warrior. Now, Warrior has had some times where it wasn't really viable, but majority of the metagames, it was one of the best decks, if not meta defining in its own right. Warrior has usually found a way to be a top deck in the meta, whether it's going to be some tempo warrior like Patron Warrior, some combo deck like OTK Worgen, or just straight up control warrior. Warrior has also had a lot of meta defining decks. There was the Risky Skipper year, which was virtually the only deck at the time that could really stand toe to toe with aggro Demon Hunter. There was the year of Dr. Boom Mad Genius, and we all remember that year. And there has been lots of times throughout Hearthstone's history where it's just the meta defining deck. This would include Grim Patron Warrior from Black Rock Mountain, Pirate Warrior from Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, and of course, Tempo and Rage Warrior from Ashes of Outlands. Warrior has also had a lot of crucial nerfs to the class, whether it be for more of an OTK package with Warsong Commander in charge, or just for tempo with Execute and Fiery War Axe. Warrior has been one of the premier classes in Hearthstone, and it's hard to argue that it hasn't made its mark on the game. And I think when a class, especially a control variant, has seen play in multiple metagames, it definitely showcases how powerful the class can be, and I hope to see Control Warrior live on as Hearthstone keeps on growing. At number 2, I'm gonna put Druid. Now, if you look at Druid as a class throughout Hearthstone's history, Druid has been very good because of its ability to ramp and cheat out mana. When we look at Hearthstone Classic, Druid had a lot of very powerful cards like Innervate that gave you 2 mana crystals and Wild Growth for 2 mana. There was the Force of Nature and Savage Roar combo. Druid has been doing a lot of broken stuff for basically the entire Hearthstone history. Druid has also had a lot of different archetypes over the years, mainly focused around token and ramp decks, but it showcases the versatility of what Druid can cause on the metagame. Druid has also got a lot of powerful cards over the years, Ultimate Infestation to say the least when card draw was at a minimal, Ancient of Lore, which was very good, a lot of very powerful ramping abilities like Darnassus Aspirant, and of course the whole Jade package with Jade Blossom. And when Druid could not ramp, their ability to play a token style deck was always around because apparently they are really good at playing small dudes and buffing them up. Druid over the years has had some very powerful decks, including the mid-range Druid that basically lasted from Hearthstone Classic until they finally nerfed Force of Nature and Savage Roar, into the Taunt Druid from the Witchwood, into Token Druid whenever and wherever you wanted to play it, into getting Overgrowth from Ashes of Outlands, to Scholomance Academy's Guardian Animals, into the Corrupt Druid that we got from Darkmoon Faire, and up to the point right now where it is playing Ramp Druid into Kazakhstan, and of course Wildheart Guff. I also just want to mention Spreading Plague for 5 mana because that card still haunts me, and that leads us into cards that have been nerfed for Druid. Druid has had the ability to do some really broken combos because some of the cards they've received had just been extremely powerful. Innervate got nerfed, Force of Nature finally got nerfed, Ancient Allure got nerfed to basically what it is now, a dead card. Nourish got nerfed, we had Wild Growth get nerfed, Fungal Fortunes got nerfed, Guardian Animals got nerfed, but I think most importantly, Aviana got nerfed for basically stopping Druid from being just an absolute monster to play against. And if you think I'm lying about Druid being one of the best classes in the game, go look at previous meta list and basically find Druid at least tier 3 on every single one. That class has just been very consistent over the years. Now, as good as Druid has been over the years, there is still one class above it, which is Rogue. Now, if you don't think Rogue is the best class in the game, Rogue is tied for the same amount of nerfs as Demon Hunter, but in my opinion, Rogue cards have to be nerfed because they're way more problematic. Blade Flurry, the Cavern Below, Cold Blood, Preparation, Raiding Party, Evil Miscreant, Apothecary, which was such a disgusting deck to play against. And in the same expansion, we also had Galakron Rogue, which was probably the most ridiculous amount of mana cheat we've ever seen in Hearthstone, which enabled some pretty insane combos. Now, it's not only about nerfs. I want to ask you a question. Try to think of the last time you have not seen Rogue in the metagame. That's right, it's been a very long time because Rogue always finds a way. Rogue has had Miracle Rogue all the way back from Hearthstone Classic, which was basically their meta-defining deck for a very long time because the combination of Edwin Van Cleef, Leroy Jenkins, and Conceal, Shadow Step, basically every card in Rogue's arsenal made a very powerful tempo/combo deck. Rogue has had the Caverns Below quest deck from Angoro, which was one of the most polarizing decks ever. In Knights of the Frozen Throne, we saw Prince Keleseth, Shadow Step Prince Keleseth. Even recently in Fraction Alterac Valley, we have seen the Thief Rogue with Wild Null coming down on turn 2 for 0 mana. Rogue also has Stealth Package, Garrot Rogue, which was arguably the best deck from 2021, and of course Weapon Rogue, which has seen a lot of play right now due to just what it does. You could basically say Rogue has been very consistent over the years, and if you go look at meta reports, you will notice that Rogue is usually always on the list, and it's had the least bad decks out of Hearthstone's history just because of what the class can do, and partially one of the reasons of that is because of Edwin Van Cleef. When Rogue didn't have a good deck, you find a way to cheat out Edwin and you could still win a lot of games. It always feels like Rogue can do everything. They have the ability to go aggressive, they have the ability to go mid-range, they do have late game options, but usually games will end before them that they don't even need it because that's how powerful the class is. Rogue also arguably got the best card of all time, which is Secret Passage, which is just basically refilling your hand for 1 mana, and that card is just absolutely ridiculous. They also have Shadow Step, which has enabled some of the most ridiculous combos that we've ever seen. But yeah, Rogue is the best class in Hearthstone history, and before you ask if I had to pick the worst class in Hearthstone history, it probably comes down to Shaman, because Shaman was either just absolutely ridiculous or it was the worst deck in the game. It was the least consistent class by far. Also, I didn't even mention hero powers in this video, but Rogue has a really good one, and Shaman's is a perfect example of just you know, a hero power, let's call it. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, I would appreciate a like, and I'll see you in the next one. You look fantastic.